Here I am after so many years, hounded by hatred and trapped by fear. I'm in a box. I've got no place to go. If I follow my mind, I know I'll slaughter my own.
Welcome, greeting, peace and love. Welcome again to the NAPPC podcast. I'm Brother Frank, and I'm with former political prisoner
Abdul Haq Islam.
We are the NAPPC, Northeast Political Prisoner Coalition. And today's episode, we're focusing on Black August. What does it mean? And what does it impact have for the work of freeing our political prisoners? Yes, our political prisoners can come home. They deserve come home. They deserve to come home, and we have the responsibility to bring them home. We have to do that by organizing and making that commitment to do so. For those who don't know about Black August started after the assassination of George Jackson in the early 70s. And it was done in California prison so prisoners could remember what George Jackson stood for. Prisoners would decide that they would study hard during Black August, that they would fast, and they would refrain from alcohol and drugs, and they would exercise. They would focus very seriously on political affairs and commit themselves to organizing and producing change that what George Jackson represented. And that's very important because that relates directly to our history of people of African descent regarding our history of resistance. Because August is a very powerful, strong political month for us. It was a time where you had a number of slave revolts happen. It was a time where Marcus Garvey was born. And when I'm talking about the time, I'm talking about the month. So that month itself is very strong and impactful. But, I don't want to take all the time to explain the history of it. I would like my brother, former political prisoner and also co-host of the NAPPC podcast to speak on that.
Oh yeah, peace and love. Black August has a great meaning in the lives of Black people, and that is highlighted, multiplied, you understand, in light of what's happening now with fascism being here. As Comrade George said, fascism is here. People are losing their lives, and many more will lose their lives if people don't act. We see fascism coming from the Supreme Court and its rulings against affirmative action. You understand? Rulings which will shorten the lives of many, many Black people. We see police having military training. We see Cop City in Atlanta, which I call Pig City. You understand? Where cops are being prepared to brutalize our people, you understand, to terrorize our people in order to instill fear in them, to try to make cowards of us, to take away our manhood and womanhood. You understand? So it's very, very important that we reflect on these examples of our humanity that came about in August. Like the brother mentioned, the birth of Marcus Garvey, August 17th. You understand? A time when we reflect on Garvey's teachings. Teachings which brought us self-confidence, self-esteem, belief in ourselves, independence. The ability to stand up, very, very strong. You understand? We remember the Marion County insurrection, August 7th, 1970. Jonathan Jackson, you understand, in an attempt to free his brother and other political prisoners, you understand, took an armed stance in the Marion County courthouse. You understand? So these type of things are very, very significant. When we have an enemy that wants our philosophy to turn the other cheek. Now, as you know, when you slap somebody, in essence, what that is that's a declaration, and they are a bitch. We don't believe that God is so dumb that he would tell you to turn the other cheek and be a coward. You understand? This is a time, you understand, with rising fascism, with bloodthirsty, insane cops, you understand, with these far right-wing organizations training right now to kill black people. This is time for another type of thinking. This is a time for a militant type of thinking. This is a time to be inspired, by those who have stood up. Those who stood up against great odds. We're inspired by Brother George, you understand, who is a very, very powerful warrior brother, you understand, with the weight of the entire state on him, you understand, millions of tons of concrete, trying to press this brother's spirit down, you understand. So in the hells of North America, he stood up strong, like a very, very great man, a big man, you understand? And he continues to inspire people with courage, you understand, to stand up and be men, So August is very, very important and critical month for black people, you understand, as we have a struggle over philosophies. The philosophy of us loving our enemy and being subservient, and crawling like a dog, that philosophy versus the philosophy of standing up like mighty human beings, you understand, against all odds, no matter how much power it is, no matter how big it is, you understand, and never being fearful, being totally fearless.
Yes, absolutely. Those in the past, that's what they taught us. They taught us to stand up and fight back. When we look at this Alabama riverboat brawl, you see black people had enough of watching their own being beat. So they came to their own rescue. And I think that's very inspiring. When we look at our political prisoners being incarcerated, and some of them coming home off compassionate release and not having much time to live, that should inspire us.
Continue with your thought. But that guy in Alabama, in Montgomery, he looked like a freight train had run over his face. He said that 65-year-old guy had a hell of a punch. Go ahead, brother. His face looked like he had run.
That's why we have to get involved in this work to free our political prisoners. We have to support the campaigns that are out there to free our political prisoners. That's why, they have a campaign to free Kamal Siddiqui, and they meet. So we're providing the information for you for that. So get involved, do something, take action. This is Black August. Make some time to write to a political prisoner. Prior to us coming on, me and Brother Abdul Haq Islam talked about the letter that Veronda Bowers had wrote to the community of Queensbridge. And in the letter, he talked about, him being thankful that the community wrote to him, and him giving some words of encouragement. Like, I had this a banner design, and I put it by the hill in Queensbridge, and on the banner it talks about who he is, the year he was born, and the fact that he spent about 50 years in prison. He was a member of the Black Panther Party, and he did his work. He was involved in organizing people, and I think that our community needs to be reminded of those who are not with us physically, but yet still their heart remains with us. Their heart remains in the battlefield for change, real change that empowers common people. And I think when Veronda Bowers wrote that letter, he told that in his letter he spoke of that he learned from brothers like Malcolm X, and he learned that it's not enough to hope for change. You have to struggle for it. And I think everybody needs to be reminded of that. One day you'll see something bad happening and you'll be bothered, but then that very moment, if you pay attention closely, you'll find something to inspire you. So we have to be inspired to fight. We have to learn from the past. And in this month of Black August, it's very important that we learn about that history so we know what we need to do. We have a responsibility for those who sacrifice for us. So, Brother Abdul Haq Islam, you was talking, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was talking about the importance of us, in light of the reality of what's going on in America right now, with fascism is here and is growing. You understand? We can see a vision of Mayor Adams of New York City and Adolf Hitler slapping five on each other. You understand? In league. You understand? Because of the same elements of fascism being incorporated now that happened during the time Hitler and Mussolini, and the purpose, of the strategic goal of the enemy, is to take all the fight out of us, you understand, so they can take all the money, all the wealth out of us, you understand, and to exploit us, dominate, and really put our people in a disgraceful situation, you understand, pitiful, and I mean, we see some broken spirits out in the street, you understand, some of our people spirits are totally broken. They, laying on the sidewalk with a cup, begging and carrying on, right. So we need, we need that spirit, that spirit of resistance. You understand? That spirit that fight for life. You understand? And this is the spirit of our political prisoners, those, who didn't care nothing about the enemy's plan to break all our spirits. The spirit is still there. The spirit is alive and well. And be in touch with our political prisoners. Because like what Brother Veronda pointed out in his letter, it is one of the worst aspects of being in prison is not getting no letters. Those who have burned their bridges, who have misused and abused people, don't get no letters, don't get no visits, and some of them, just want to tough it out and don't get no letters and stuff. That's a very, very difficult thing. But when you receive a letter, when you're a prisoner, that's that lights up your whole day. That's the highlight of your day. When you get a letter from prisoners, a letter, from the outside, so we encourage folks to write our political prisoners, and to share the political outlook of our political prisoners. Our whole situation is political. Politics is one group of people, you understand, the relationship with another group of people, particularly, when that people, the adversary people have power, you understand, and their strategic objective is to take all the power out of you like a vampire. You understand? Sucks your spirit dry, as Veronza said, and leaves a hollow shell. So that politics, that fight, that humanity is what's inside that shell. You understand? And so let's come together with our humanity, and be supermen and superwomen. You understand? Because this is what it takes right now in 2024 with creeping fascism.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So when we look at creeping fascism happening, we have to become more alarmed. We have to become more organized. We have to commit ourselves to an organization, right? Because simply analyzing a problem and having dialogue with somebody who agrees with you, or even if somebody doesn't agree with you and you're engaged in a debate, what does that lead to? If it doesn't lead to organized action, then it's ineffective. And that's why we on this platform, we do the podcast, but we're also out in the community. We're also part of the support grieving group that meets in Queensbridge. That's a part of our extended work into the community, because it allows the community to understand that there's a presence out there that represents the interests or the ideas of political prisoners. Because regardless of what a political prisoner might not be in the community, but a political prisoner still is concerned about the problems of a community. And that's why when Veronza Bowers wrote that letter to Queensbridge Projects, he gave his input regarding how one should deal with mental health issues. And I think that that's the one thing we need to do. In all our situations, we need to write to a political prisoner, let them know what we're doing, and ask for their advice. Now their advice can be utilized in our organized action. And I think that, this plays another role in, them coming to the parole board, where they were involved in a community affair that was beneficial to a community, and a community, in fact, showed gratitude by writing a letter. That's why it's very important to write to our political prisoners, because we want their ideas implemented on our campaigns to raise awareness of a particular issue. Just like the brother was talking about fascism, right? We talk about other issues of reparations, political prisoners. We'll have a viewpoint on that. Mumia Abu Jamal, he'll have a viewpoint on senseless violence and how you combat senseless violence. What are the tactics? Former political prisoner Jalil Abdul Mutakim has that 13 Forward campaign, where prisoners, period, will be recognized as workers and receive the same benefits as workers, instead of being treated the way they are now.
Slavery.
Right, slavery, right. You took the words right out of my mouth. And I appreciate that, this is a collective effort. So, we do our podcast episode in the spirit of those freedom fighters that fought long and hard, and those who made sacrifices, because we focus on George Jackson and the fact that he was a prisoner of consciousness. He became politicized while he was incarcerated. He went from criminal to revolutionary because he made that transition through his ability to be educated, learn from the writings of Karl Marx, Mao Zedong, Lenin, and others. So, matter of fact, I was on social media, and they said that when they went in cell, there was 99 books that he had, and they listed his 99 books, and very strong books that sharpen your awareness about your reality. And I think that that's what Black August means, for you to set aside your distractions, spend less time on that social media, and more time in a book. At least if you're not at that level of discipline, then you just want to monitor it, right? You want to say for every minute that you on that social media, it should be 2 minutes reading. I think that this balance, or this ratio that's conducted, will have you looking forward to being a stronger person, making a decision that you have to step up, and you have to be responsible. You have to be accountable for what's going on in your community regarding its continuity and its being able to get rid of that situation because of the actions that you decided to take. While you were in prison on political matters, brother, what were how was the prison population? At least I know those who are conscious when Black August came.
Uh, well, you had your conscious elements, and you had those who, were not so conscious. Black August wasn't discussed a whole lot when I was in the joint. But however, we had many brothers who were rebels, rebellious brothers, and that's what I hung with when I was in the joint. Brothers who wouldn't take no stuff, brothers who knew the history of America, knew the essence of America. You understand? And it's always good to be in that type of company. When you're in a very very oppressive situation. And individuals like this have a great deal to offer the community. When we talk about people not writing our political prisoners, um, not supporting our political prisoners, Frank had mentioned the idea of what makes sense and what don't make sense. And as you go through the community, not just eavesdropping on people's conversation, but what you hear all the time is this makes sense and that don't make sense. So how much sense does it make to throw inspiration in the garbage can? You understand? How much sense does it make for you to just abandon, that which can produce great courage in a people? A teaching, a philosophy, or people, a leadership. You understand, which can resolve, the contradictions in the people, make them hate themselves and want to destroy themselves. To just get rid of that. How much sense does that make? No, it makes a whole lot more sense, you understand, to be in a company of those, who have positive aspirations, positive ideas, and something beneficial to offer the community, and that's who our political prisoners are. So we don't want to abandon them. We don't want to just throw all their gifts in the garbage can, and in that way to collaborate with the enemy, because that's what the enemy wants. The enemy wants us to to act in a way which don't make no sense at all, when you got people who saved us from a lot of the hell on earth that the enemy brings us. People saves us from a whole lot of that, and for us to just turn our backs on all that, that is totally insane.
Absolutely. So we have to show appreciation, right? We ask our children to behave a certain way. We are raised a certain way to behave, and our behavior, our right deeds should be reciprocated, right? And the right deeds of our political prisoners should be reciprocated, and that reciprocation comes through writing a letter, right? Just like when we talk about Rabanja writing back, there were others who wrote back. The honorable and respectful Dr. Latuda Shakur.
Right to parole board.
He wrote me back, and that meant a lot to me. Every time a political prisoner writes back to me, I'm very excited. I'm very inspired. Yes, and right to the parole board.
Yeah.
Right, Rochelle McGee, when he was up for parole, I know I wrote to the parole board, and they wrote me back. And I was just curious because they didn't never say why they were denying him at that time. But he kept strong, and people kept resilient, and they kept fighting to bring him home. And now he's home, and now we have to do what we have to do to make sure that his time is home is one that he's really shown a whole lot of love, that he's getting all the necessary treatment that is necessary for him to live out his the remaining years in a very respectful, honorable way. It's a war of ideas, right? And unless we act out our ideas, then our ideas will not be validated. the ideas of our oppressor will be validated, because there's no confronting that. There's no confrontation. And that's what we have to really pay attention to, what we stand for. What we stand for is declared by our actions, what we decide to do. If there's a problem and we decide that we're going to step up, then our action validate what we are about and what our ideas truly represent. And I think that's the significance and the importance of what we're witnessing with this Alabama riverboat brawl. We're seeing black people who just in their mind, you could look at the age of these black people or people of African descent, and you could tell that they were reminded historically.
Hold that thought. You mentioned Alabama. Also, recently in Alabama, 5 cops, they call themselves the Goon Squad, beat up a black man, shot him in the face. That was Alabama also, you know. And so, you know, this is representative of something that's happened now, that goon squads and, you know, these fascist groups coming together. You know, there's something that's happening right now. And that's why we need, you know, this strong, this powerful personalities among us. And we need to take up powerful personalities in our own being, you know, Black Power.
Yes, Black Power. You're absolutely right. So you just look at the traditional culture in Alabama. You know, black people being afraid to do a number of things because of their position of power or lack of it. And now we see the riverboat Alabama brawl, we see that black people had enough, and black people are going to say, this is how we're going to live in 2023. And I think that, you know, we all need to be inspired by that, coming to each other's rescue. We all need to be inspired to do more. And that's why whenever we're taking a position, there's going to be some pushback from the state, those in power. And some of us are going to get penalized severely. And I think that that's why when we talk about battling, I mean, we talk about engaging in war ideologically, you know, we have to look at the consequences that come from that. And that's directly takes us to our political prisoners and the sacrifices that they have made. You know, if you look at Ruchell Magee and him being incarcerated for over 67 years and him being 83, so the majority of his life he was in prison. And that should alarm us. That should bother us. What type of society we live where they incarcerate somebody for that long? You know, what really are you getting out of it? You know, and I think that, you know, once we start looking at that and looking at the fact that they use our tax-paying dollars to build, to construct prisons, then we have to make that demand that we have a say-so on how long a prisoner should be held and what are the charges, and are the charges something that is not questionable or not, because, you know, the system is flawed. And we have to make sure we expose the flaws of the system if we really want what's best for us. So, my brother, you know, when you look at taxpayers and you look at the fact that they work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, that 40-hour work week, you know, why should they be so concerned about, you know, how their tax dollars is being spent?
Well, you know, it's kind of amazing, you know, that people would knowingly allow them their tax dollars to be used as weaponry against them. You know, there's been instances in history where there's been very, very powerful revolts against taxation without representation. You know, so being a people of value, you understand, we must demand that that we have a say-so on how our tax dollars are used. You know, for example, of something you just mentioned, tax dollars have recently been spent on about 65 machine guns for Rikers Island and 72 sniper rifles. You know, so this is an area, definitely the area of taxes it's definitely an area where strong messages of self-determination need to reverberate, because the tax dollars are yours. They belong to you. So, I mean, how in the heck you'd allow somebody else, an enemy, to use your tax dollars in a way that is detrimental to the people, to aim machine guns at your babies, at your loved ones, at your family members, So this and many, many areas, other areas similar, demand that people stand up, you understand, and don't lay down, and don't become docile, with some dog-like cowardice, in the face of oppression, but to stand up like real men and real women and fight back.
Yeah, so we'll close out this episode the way we always do. What's the call?
Free them all.
What's the call?
Free them all.
And just last one word. September 2nd, be in Queensbridge for the 3rd annual Vegan Festival. We'll have a table, provide information on political prisoners. Don't let our political prisoners die in prison.
That's right. Black power.